Cartoonists are supposed to make us think. They're supposed to make us question what's around us.
The stuff that happens to her and her friends have either happened to me or somebody I know.
You got to laugh in order to survive out there.
Keep people motivated, keep their morale up, and keep them in tune with the world.
I get a couple laughs out of the guys. That's payday right there.
Comics and cartoons with military themes have been around as long as images have been printed, but most are created by civilian artists and writers. In this edition of Recon, we'll meet three very different artists who are exploring these themes from inside the military. We'll also see how the digital era is bringing about some changes to the world of the comic strip. We begin in St. Clair Lakes, Michigan, just outside Detroit.
It's very satisfying, especially when I'm done with a strip and I know I nailed it, and that's good. It's a good feeling.
Basil Zavisky is the artist behind the comic strip Gunston Street. It chronicles the Iraq deployment of Company F, 425th Infantry. They're a long-range surveillance unit with the Michigan National Guard. He based the characters in Gunston Street on members of his team, like Sergeant Walter Crump.
What do you think Americans back home are thinking about right now? Our security, reinforcements, shorter tours?
Gas prices.
You know, it makes light of a lot of situations that, you know, weren't funny at the time, but now you can look back and laugh at it, you know.
That's pretty accurate. Yeah. So this is me right here. So, and I had a mustache then.
We talked him into getting rid of it.
Yeah, he said I'd look younger if I didn't have the mustache. So he's not trying to make big political statements. What he's trying to do is accurately portray our feelings and our experiences in Iraq. And I think the comic really does a good job.
Infantry unit, we use a lot of black humor. And you needed humor, you got to laugh off, you know, in order to survive out there or just function. You got to make, you got to laugh at it. If I get feedback from a private, say, hey, I enjoy your strip, you know, and thanks for writing it. Man, that's it. That's all I do it for. There's really nothing more to it. That's satisfaction enough.
Gunston Street appears in Stars and Stripes, the newspaper originally founded by and for service members. It prints 5 different daily editions for those deployed and stationed overseas.
The strips, the comic strips, are some of the most popular things in the newspaper, popular things in any newspaper. People love to read it. It's a break from everything else that you read. A little bit of humor in places where there's not a lot of humor.
Stars and Stripes, whose best-known cartoonist Bill Malden won a Pulitzer Prize during World War II, continues to find value in comic strips and cartoons.
You look at it, and it's the old story, a picture tells 1,000 words. You can say more in one photo or one cartoon. Than you could in a lengthy opinion piece that only some people will read.
Images of military life have been giving readers something to identify with since colonial days. The Library of Congress holds a vast collection of them. Perhaps the earliest American military image is the depiction of the Boston Massacre of 1770, when British soldiers killed 5 civilians. The image was created by Paul Revere.
Paul Revere, famous for his Midnight Ride. He's probably our first military cartoonist. He did what was probably the first propaganda pro-American cartoon about the massacre of Americans in Boston.
Through the early decades of our history, there were always images of military activity, some of them heroic, others with an editorial or satiric edge. Sarah Duke, curator of graphic and applied art, says by the time the Civil War started in 1861, soldiers were creating pictures that reflected their everyday lives, from campground to battlefield.
The representations that were coming out of soldiers during the Civil War tended to be not so funny. Images of the horrors of war, images of imprisonment, images of camp life. The soldiers' pictures tend to be a little more stark and a little more disturbing, actually.
I'm holding in my hand a copy of the First Stars and Stripes, which was born in Bloomfield, Missouri on November 9th, 1861. And the headline was, "The Union, it must and shall be preserved." The idea was a newspaper for the troops by the troops. And so that philosophy is carried on through.
Retired Lieutenant Colonel Bill McNamara has a healthy respect for Stars and Stripes independence and history. Following D-Day, he led the team that followed the invasion into France, published a mimeographed beachhead bulletin, and later, when they found printing facilities, a full version of the paper. World War II was a golden age for military cartoonists. Sergeant George Baker's Sad Sack, the original G.I. Joe by Sergeant Dave Breger, who also created a strip called G.I. Jerry to explain Germans to Allied troops. There was Dick Wingert's dumpy Little Hubert. But the gold standard for the golden age was Bill Mauldin and his scruffy soldiers, Willie and Joe.
Mauldin also was really a GI cartoonist. He didn't really take too kindly to officers. He didn't mind them, but he just cartooned basically what the GIs felt towards officers. And this is a prime example of that. You see a one-star general right here, 2 GIs in the mud, and they're saying, "Sir, do you have to draw fire while you're inspiring us?"
Mauldin traveled with troops as they fought their way up Italy, depicting the life of the GI with sympathy and humor over and over.
There's a famous Bill Mauldin cartoon where an American soldier meets a German soldier in Italy, and didn't we meet at casino? You know, haven't we met before? You know, are you sleeping with 2 blankets or 3 in the pouring rain? Are you warming your hands at the back of a tank? None of this is pretty, but Mauldin found a way to make it funny, a way to make the soldiers realize that they could get up another day and do the work that had to be done.
Mauldin was popular with troops, but he drew the ire of General George Patton. First, there was the one about the soldiers coming to an entertainment.
What you see here is a USO show in an old opera house, and the GIs, muddy from the front, are coming in to see the girls. You see here, girls, girls, girls. And then the officers are waiting at the stage door to pick up the girls right after the show and take them out. Patton thought this was basically insubordination, and, you know, it would turn the GIs against their officers.
And then there was the one with Willie and Joe in a Jeep, stopped before a billboard as they entered Patton's 3rd Army area.
And it says, fines.
No helmet, $15 fine. No necktie, $25 fine, and so forth, all the fines.
And the caption reads,
"Radio the old man, we're going to be late. We have to take a 1,000-mile detour." And everybody who had ever been near a 3rd Army area thought it was hilarious, but Patton was furious and accused us of undermining the morale of his 3rd Army and wanted to ban it. But Eisenhower told him to back off. The humor is wonderful for everybody that's leading a miserable life in mud and rain and everything to get a good laugh once in a while.
The tradition of quality cartoons would continue for a time after the war. Don Shepard created Victoria Dankeschön, VD for short. The message, beware of a certain class of German Fräuleins. There was a bit of outrage expressed by Germans, and Shep depicted himself being chased out of Germany by VD when he left.
So not only did he do a lovely bosomy Veronica Dankeschön, he did a very nice Goering as well.
Shepard also drew the very serious journalistic assignment as courtroom artist for the Nuremberg trials of Nazi war criminals. Even as Stars and Stripes' storied history lives on in leather-bound volumes, the archive has been digitized, and the current editors look to increase the relevance on the web.
If you do it right, we have a newspaper that looks one way and a website that looks another. You can lead people back and forth between the two.
And Terry Leonard thinks there's still a place for the hard copy. Each edition passed through many hands just because of the nature of what service members do.
If you're in Afghanistan and you're limited to 30 minutes online, are you going to spend that 30 minutes reading all the various news sites? Or are you going to spend that emailing your friends and your wife and your girlfriend or whatever? So I suspect that news is pretty low on the priority there, and they would rather have the print product in their hot little hands. You do it both at the same time.
It wasn't a Hallmark moment. That's for damn sure.
Our lineage.
Yeah. Dirty as ever. Dirty.
Oh man, they got sour
Even well after their deployment, members of Company F 425th Infantry still get together regularly. As National Guardsmen, they've known each other for years, and they live in the same area. So they've all showed up for a convivial dinner at the home of Gunston Street cartoonist Basil Savitsky. They talk sports, they talk Michigan's depressed economy, and they talk about their 2004 deployment.
In the reserves or the Guard, the guys come in and they stay for a long time, 8, 10, 12 years, you know. So, and then you go through a war together. You go through this experience together, and you become a brotherhood. You become like a family, you know.
I've served with these guys for years. So when we went out there, it really meant a lot because there was not much of you had to learn how the other guy acts or works. You knew it.
On his website, Basil has put together a music video about the deployment, blending his cartoons with stills and home video. Company F is a specialized unit.
Long-range surveillance. Worked in 6-man teams. Sometimes we did 2 teams.
The missions were intense, but there was also plenty of downtime.
Equipment I had was very crude, but any chance I got, I just threw some strips down. The guys seemed to like it, so, and I enjoyed them liking it.
Oh, I thought it was cool. It was great.
Basil had been doodling and drawing since childhood. The strip is named after a street he grew up near in Detroit. He started Gunston Street before Company F even got orders for deployment.
And obviously, the main focus was the missions. To get some comic relief if I could draw something up. Yeah.
The main character is named Phil, after Basil's dad, and he's drawn to look like Phil, too.
Immortalized?
Yeah.
I really enjoy it because people recognize, they look at this picture and they say, that's you.
But the experiences are those of Basil and his team.
There's really nothing in there that's made up or fake. You know, it's funny stuff, but funny stuff happens during wars and, whatnot. I've received tonight's mission.
Eric Hennings was team leader.
It takes place at 22:30. We're leaving out of gate 9. We'll head east on IED Alley for 3 clicks. We'll then cross IED Alley to the north side, and then skirt for 2-3 clicks, setting up our observation point off of IED Alley. Any questions?
I have a question. I understand I'm not in charge of anything, and that our missions are determined by a bunch of officers that never leave the wire. But is there any way possible that we could consider avoiding this so-called IED Alley?
It's kind of fun when they see it and they bitch, oh God, that's not me, so I get a kick out of that.
He captures everybody real good. It makes light of a lot of situations that, weren't funny at the time, but now you can look back and laugh at it,
Sergeant Walter Crump, called Dirty within the team, appears in the strip as Crump, and Staff Sergeant Chris Cesney is named Cesney.
When I first went to basic training, a good friend of mine told me you just gotta laugh sometimes when it gets really crazy. And that's kind of the same thing. If you got something, you see other people going through the same thing, and you can laugh about it. It makes it a lot easier.
This could pertain to so many different things. So many things are so stupid. You're just like, what? Am I gonna ask this question, or is somebody else smarter than me gonna ask this? But
are you taking your snowshoes?
It's a little warm in Iraq, stupid.
There's a strong military tradition in the Savitsky family. Basil served with his father in the Michigan National Guard for years, and grandfather Jim Etherton was with the 82nd Airborne in Europe during World War II. He learned to appreciate the joy cartoons can bring to the front lines.
In the Airborne, World War II, everyone looked for the Stars and Stripes every month. I was over there for over 18 months. I got 2 letters. I moved around so much that the mail never caught up with me.
Basil writes some strips about communications with home. His wife Lena does the lettering for Gunston Street and corrects his frequent misspellings. She says working on the strip has helped her understand his deployment.
He wants to get his experience out to everybody, let everyone know, what he's gone through. And the exposure, it's not about money. It's just about, hey, this is Basil Savitsky. These are my comics. You like them, fine. If you don't.
But he believes you really can't make this stuff up.
Any funny strip, the best ones I got, have to be based in reality. If I was trying to force something and trying to create something, if it's not based in some kind of reality, it will show.
He always has a small notebook within reach to record ideas or recollections as they strike him.
I'll write down 50 ideas or more, and then out of 50, I'll probably use 3. I got some strips here I've been sitting on for over a year because the punchline ain't right. But the creative process there's no set structure. I just write down notes, look at it, and like, hey, cool, that's funny. And if it ain't, well, you can't hit them out of the ballpark every time.
Basil calls his method old school. He sketches and inks everything by hand before scanning it into the computer and posting it on his webpage. Most artists do at least part of the process electronically these days. He's proudest of one extended set of strips that isn't meant to be funny. It recounts a mission when the team was assigned to convoy duty. It's drawn in a more realistic style and has some of the pop, boom, pow quality of adventure comics.
I did a small graphic novel type, and I got some satisfaction out of that. Just trying a different technique. It was fun, just I got to expand a little bit.
The team was ambushed twice in the course of the mission, coming under heavy fire each time. Everyone came through the night fine, but conveying the experience was an important step for Basil.
Because it took me out of my comfort zone of just the comedy aspect, and it gave me a chance to do something else. I'd have to say I was pretty satisfied with that.
The next strip in the series was a return to the regular cartoon characters and a tribute to Bill Mauldin.
I was glad he's out there. His work is outstanding, and I still read it today. I look at it. I don't read it.
Phil and Eric are speaking after the mission.
Wow, that was crazy. I thought we were dead. We were taking fire from everywhere. Trucks burning, RPGs, you name it. I was glad to see you guys show up.
You guys telling war stories?
I'm just happy to be alive. You wouldn't understand. You just had to be there.
You'd be amazed by what we understand.
It's universal. The same problems we had, they're having right now. And they had 20 years ago, 50 years ago. I mean, some in the Army never changes. And as far as the people that read the strips, hey, I hope you enjoy it. I hope if there's something, I just hope you keep entertaining them. That's it. That's it.
Basil Savitsky, Julie Negron, and Gunnery Sergeant Charles Wolf are all trying to supply that comic relief to service members and their families and keep up that proud tradition of military cartooning. I'm Staff Sergeant Brian Buckwalter. Thanks for watching Recon.